my computer. Okay. Dave Bryant is coming in. Participants.
I'm going to hang up Skype here.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can, but I'm got the wrong audio here. Let's get that fixed. Okay. Can you say something real quick just to make sure that that's
sure.
live? Okay, perfect.
I am eating a waffle.
I see that. All right. Well, we have some attendees already in, so they all see you eating waffles. Hey, everybody. Abby just topped on. How's it going, Abby? Got some chat going on here. Let's see. No sound. You should be able to hear us now, Greg. Dave can hear me, and I can hear Dave, so it should be working.
Can anybody else hear us? Hey, guys, I can hear you. Perfect.
Yep, perfect. And we're going to try to figure out how to do this on Facebook Live, so give me just a second to play around with that. We still got 10 more minutes as people pile in here, so plenty of time. We're just getting here early to make sure that everything goes perfect, or as perfect as it can in a live event.
So the big question, so people can see you, they cannot see me, I believe, correct?
Well, that's probably for everyone's benefit.
I was going to say.
I don't know why.
I can see you.
I can see you just fine. So.
But Celine, you probably don't know who I am, though. You probably think I'm Mike.
After launching webinar, click More, and then choose the service at which you stream your webinar. After launching your webinar.
Thanks, Celine.
Where would More be?
Who are you trying to invite here, Mike?
I'm trying to do the Facebook Live thing. It says, after you start your webinar, click More.
Yeah.
It doesn't say where to click More.
Well, I can click the More button. It only gives me the options for email.
Where are you seeing more? Like where?
If you're in the Zoom app, on the very bottom, I think it's grayed out. If you have to scroll over it on the bottom.
I don't have it on the app. I have share screen, join, back to meeting. Oh, back to meeting. Oh, there we go. That More. Okay. But it doesn't show that option. Mute participants.
If you just need a URL for Facebook, I've copied it into Skype for you. I don't know if you're expecting to see more there, though.
That didn't work. The link that I got did not. After launching the webinar, click More. It does not have. There's another More here. I wonder what More it means. We got more people piling in here. Hello, everyone. We're going to get started in about 10 minutes. Thank you for joining us today. Dave and I are just trying to figure out some software stuff here. We're trying to figure out how to get this to live stream with Facebook, and I just found the button that it was saying, so live on Facebook. Okay.
Hello, Saad.
Okay. No, I think it's not going to let me. This is
for what it's worth. If I scroll to the More button, I see nothing for Facebook, so I'm not sure it would even.
I got to the spot now, but the problem is that it looks like it's trying to do it on my personal page, and that is not what I'm looking to do. More live work placed by Facebook, live on Facebook. Live stream with Zoom. Share on your own timeline, share to your page. Oh, here we go. Perfect. All right. Ecom crew. All right. Importing.
Okay, I'll be back in 1 second, guys.
All right. We should be going live here any second now on Facebook as well. I got a few people in here saying hello. Let's see. Sod. Hello, Greg. Is it Seelan? Is that how you pronounce that? How's it going, guys? Got a few people piling in here already. Going to get started in about 5 more minutes or so, 5 or 6 more minutes. We'll give everyone a chance to get in here. And we are live on Facebook now. I'm going to double check that that's working. Let Dave know we are live on Facebook. Let's see. Sorry if my response didn't make sense. I've been following your blog posts for a while before you started working with Mike. I'm not sure what that. That's an inside thing. I don't know what that's about.
No, I think she means that she was following me at Chinese importing before.
Ah, okay.
I came over to Ecom Crew.
Cool.
Yes.
Steve Chu just came by to say hello.
Webcam is terrible. You get like half my face. So we're here. Is anybody? Oh, David Gassaway. You're early. Good to talk to you, David. David is my neighbor in Vancouver, almost. Neighbor as in about half an hour away. While we're here, is anybody coming over to China that's in the webinar right now? Either for the Canton Fair next month, Global Sources, any of the events going on in China? If you are, give a yes in the chat box.
All right. Let's see if this thing, Steve said it keeps on going in and out. I don't know if.
Over here, is anybody coming over to China?
I need to pause that. That was a bad idea.
Canton Fair next month.
How do I
Sources, any of the events
stop?
in China? You are, give a yes.
All right. Hopefully I can get that to go away. So this is going out over the guys that are on Facebook Live. This is we're using Zoom, and it does a Facebook Live as well. So if it's going in and out, not sure exactly what to say about that, but you can always hop on our Zoom. And we're going to get started here in just a couple minutes, getting used to this new software. And I lost the comments on Facebook Live. Let's see here. Get back to that. Here we go. So we got in the live chat here, we got Steve Chu. If you guys have never been over to My Wife Quit Her Job, he's got another awesome blog on e-commerce. Definitely give that a check out, mywifequitherjob.com. Bill D'Alessandro, a good friend of ours, who runs Elements Brands. A guy's trying to be the Procter & Gamble of Charlotte over here in the live chat. We didn't announce that we were going to be doing Facebook Live, so I'm not sure how many people will be on this, but we got a few hundred people registered for the webinar, which is really exciting. Definitely looking forward to getting this kicked off here in just a couple minutes. Abby, if you could go, hopefully, Abby, you can hear us. If you can go into the Facebook Live chat and keep an eye on that, because I'm not going to be able to keep an eye on that while doing the webinar. And so if you can push any questions from the Facebook Live over to either the Zoom window or Skype or something so I can see them, that would be appreciated. And Abby, you should be able to comment right in the Facebook Live without any problem. I'm going to close that window. Again, Steve, thanks for stopping by and thanks for the sweet thing you did for us. Really appreciate it. And Bill, man, hope everything's good over there in Charlotte. Looks like Rodrigo joined, man. Blast from the past. Hope things are going well, Roddy, over there in Costa Rica. A couple other people might be on here. But I'm going to close that window and head over to the Zoom window, and that way I can keep track of all those. Thank you, Abby. She said she's on it. Got a hello, everyone. Am I late? Did you guys start? We just started early. We're going to get started here in just a couple minutes. We wanted to get all the software set up. Everybody let us know, can you see me okay? Can you hear me okay? Can you see Dave okay, hear Dave okay? Like I said, we got a couple hundred people that register. We're really excited about this. And there'll be a recording of this, so if anybody's missing this or if you, for any reason, we'll get a recording out to those who missed it for whatever reason. And we're going to get started in just a minute here. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was going to say too, Abby, our assistant, is also going to email the slides to everybody after the webinar too. So before anybody asks, we're preemptively going to send them to you.
Cool. And so it says, can see and hear you fine. Awesome. Sound is great, but you have some camera shake. Yeah, I think that every time I touch this table, it's kind of shaking the camera a little bit. So we're going to try not to do that much. I'll try to not touch the table and have any shake, but doing this in a new spot. We're actually remodeling our office right now. So the spot I normally do this at is not available right now, but we're going to be building a new Ecom Crew studio next week, which I'm really excited about. So we should have more video content and just more Ecom Crew content in general here starting next week. So, all right, I am going to minimize this and start the screen share.
And your response, Jen, we're aiming for an hour here. We'll probably do about half an hour, 40 minutes of talking, and then we'll do 20 to 30 minutes of Q&A, depending on what kind of questions and the quantity that we get.
All right, so the PowerPoint should be up now for everybody to see. Let me go back over here to chat, make sure I can see the comments. I don't see comments. 1 second here. Back to meeting. Frustrating. Let's see. It's always fun when you're doing new software. There's more blinking chat. Perfect. All right, got the chat open, got the presentation open. Just one last check. Can everybody see get better products cheaper and faster slide up there and see us okay still? We're going to get started in just under a minute. We want to give everybody just one more second to get in here. The duration of the webinar, I think Dave just answered this. We're going to be on for about an hour, and we'll have some time at the end for Q&A, and I think we're good to go. Before I hit go, Dave, any quick comments to get started here?
No, I think we're pretty much self-explanatory once we get into it. Any questions that you have during the webinar, just post them here, and Abby will try to kind of keep a running tally of them, and we'll answer them at the end.
Awesome. All right, so the main topic for today, I mean, obviously there's lots of stuff we talk about at Ecom Crew, but this is just some tips and things that Dave and I have been discovering in our business and things we've been teaching people on the speaking circuit and just like on the podcast, the blog. But it's a good opportunity to put it in a little bit different format here with this webinar. We're going to try to start doing webinars much more frequently, but the main topic today is just importing from China, getting products better, cheaper, and faster. So what we're looking for here in 2018, the main thing that we're working on is, how can I differentiate our products basically from everyone else through marketing and changing the product. This is really important. In my opinion, I know Dave feels the exact same way. True private labeling is dead. The era of just finding a garlic press or whatever it might be on Alibaba and putting your name on it and throwing that in a poly bag is completely dead. So one of the things that we really work on now is how we can differentiate our product. How can we change our product to make it different than everybody else and make it something that is a little bit harder to copy, gives you some branding, things like that. Yeah, so any more thoughts on that, Dave?
Yeah, and it's one of the things that we talk to students a lot about, or even people who just read the Ecom Crew blog. A lot of people are still looking to find that product that they can do China arbitrage on, find it for $10 and go sell it for 50 and do absolutely nothing to it. And that worked a few years ago, 2013, 2014. That's definitely how I started my company. It doesn't work anymore. It just for the fact that there's so much competition now on Amazon, even through your direct website. So you have to find, you can't compete on price anymore. That's a really big takeaway. Going to China and importing it, that used to be enough of a competitive advantage. It doesn't work enough nowadays. You have to find some way to make your products a little bit different.
Yep. And I think that the clue always with this type of thing is like when everyone else is doing it and talking about it, that's usually when you're too late to that party. So I think that particular thing's dead, but I do think that there's still tremendous amount of growth opportunity within Amazon, which we'll be talking about here a little bit more. So let's dig into ways you can actually differentiate, because the obvious thing is like getting products to market as fast as you possibly can, and not reinventing the wheel. Because like the hard thing here is really trying to like change the actual product and make massive changes fundamentally to it, having to open up new molds or whatever it might be. So, things that you can do that are easy to differentiate, and we'll just alternate back and forth here. By changing colors, you can use the same mold. Let's say something is injection molded plastic, and it's coming typically in black. Changing that to red or blue or whatever other colors it might be, or having a variety of colors is something that's a pretty easy thing to change.
Yeah, and the same thing with going with different sizes. This isn't applicable for every product. Obviously, every product doesn't have sizes, but a lot of products do have sizes. So, for example, in my previous company, we had boat covers. Everybody had the most popular size of boat cover, but it was kind of the fringe size. It's kind of like a running shoe where everybody has a size 9 and 10, but every time you go to a store, they might not necessarily have the size 11 and the size 12. So you can kind of go for the fringe sizes, which maybe not everybody is selling.
Yep. Bundling it with accessories. This is something that I've really kind of gravitated towards and latched onto, is something that we do a lot here in our own business as we're trying to develop 50 new products this year. This is something that's a component probably of 45 of them. And the example that we always talk about is our gel pens. So, there's lots of people on Amazon selling gel pens, but we were the first to bundle it with a case because people like to be able to travel with it. They take them to the doctor's office, or they take them to the park, or they take them on the bus ride or a plane ride, whatever it might be. So having a case with them is a nice additive bundle that we can do with that. And then also including a set of refills is another part of the bundle. So we also include a really nice package, which is a separate thing a little bit. But having those three things bundled into one package in the one box allows us to sell it for significantly more because the perceived value is way, way higher. Just gel pens alone would sell probably for like $9.99, but and a case might be like $12.99, and the refills might be like another $9.99, and we can bundle all those things together and create a much higher perceived value while not having to increase our cost a lot, because a lot of these things that you bundle with might only add $1 or $2 to your cost to develop the product, but the perceived value and the retail value of that might be $10, $12, $14, $15, whatever it might be. So bundling is a way to do this. And it's a little bit more sophisticated because sometimes you have to use multiple manufacturers to pull this off. Sometimes you can do it with one. But if you do use it multiple manufacturers, typically what ends up happening is that's a barrier to entry that the Alibaba crowd isn't going to mess with. So your product becomes a little bit more defensible if you do end up pulling this off with multiple manufacturers. And typically you'll get one of the manufacturers to be the point person to actually put it all in the package for you and everything. But bundling is something that I think is a really awesome opportunity in 2018 and beyond, because the average person is taking just one of those things and trying to grab it off Alibaba and do very little to differentiate. So bundling is the third one here.
Yeah, and I'll also elaborate on that a little bit more because I think it's probably the biggest opportunity out there right now. If you go to Amazon and you look at any of the most popular products on there, the things that are selling thousands of units a month, almost all of the top listings have one of these components involved. They're either doing things in different colors or different sizes, or they're bundling the items. So it's definitely a tactic that people are using. a lot of success. The easiest way that you can bundle products is, like Mike said, you can get the same manufacturer. If they have two different products that they're already making, combine them into one. That's really easy. But if you can get two different manufacturers, immediately you'll eliminate probably 99% of your competition, just because most people don't want to go through the hassle of having two different manufacturers work together.
Sorry, the
then,
Facebook Live video here. I turned the audio down. Just was trying to keep track of the Facebook comments. A couple more people hopped on Facebook. Looks like Brad's in there now. I can actually look at the comments on my phone, so I'm doing that. What's up, Brad? Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, and going through this list again, the other thing you can do is you can sell things in a multi-pack item. So if you're selling a garlic press, sell 2 garlic presses together. Again, you get that kind of long tail end of people who are looking for multiple items. And if everyone is only selling a 1 item package, if you're the guy who's selling 2 in a package, you're going to capture 100% of that market. So again, it's just, you don't need to reinvent the wheel here and find ways to completely differentiate your product. Just standing out a wee little bit on Amazon, a lot of times is more than enough to differentiate and get at least some of the market.
Yep. And Jay-Z here was just making a comment that his product consists of products from 4 different factories to put together, which I think is awesome. Again, it increases that barrier to entry. Like, always use that as an opportunity. Like the extra effort you put into it, use it as an opportunity to differentiate your products in a way that makes it difficult from the guy sitting in his basement in his underwear at his mom's house, just getting started, which is fine position to be in, but you want to make it just a little bit harder than the next guy to try to copy that product. Another opportunity is to make it out of a different material. Again, a lot of times the Chinese manufacturer, especially the Alibaba type products, are made out of the cheapest possible materials, and you can upgrade. It's amazing. Sometimes it depends on the product, obviously, and the size of it and the materials we're talking about here. But a lot of things that we've worked with, a lot of times this is a quarter or 50 cents or something ridiculously cheap to upgrade the materials, a nicer zipper, nicer cloth, better rubber, whatever it might be. That's not how the Chinese mindset is. They're not thinking, how can I spend just a little bit more money to make a demonstrably better product? They're looking at how we can spend as little as possible to sell the cheapest possible product. That's just like the Chinese mentality. And the American mentality is we want high quality products. We want stuff that lasts and it doesn't break, it doesn't whatever. So for anywhere from like a nickel to 50 cents more, depending on what the product is, a lot of times you can make something that's substantially or even exponentially better than the original product. And what that just basically takes is getting a sample, working back and forth with the manufacturer, arguing with them about why you want to spend more money, because that topic comes up a lot. They're like, why would you possibly want to do this? Is kind of like the attitude. And you just say, well, we want a higher quality product, and you'd be surprised at what you can get by pushing the issue to make the product higher quality.
Yeah, and I think that's a kind of a theme with Amazon right now too, is that so many people kind of competing for the bottom price, and it leaves a big market for people competing for either the medium quality or higher quality. So just try to avoid that trap of being sucked into the race to the bottom, because there's not a lot of room to play there. And the last thing here that we have on the list is dramatically improving the packaging. I think this one was kind of the hot thing in 2016, 2017. Everybody really focusing on their packaging, because packaging is the easiest thing to do. It's still really important. It's not necessarily going to help you get new immediate sales, but it's going to help you get reviews in the long run. And it's going to, obviously, the more reviews you have, the higher your sales rank is going to be over time, because that's a big trust signal to people to buy your product.
Oh, someone said the microphone's blocking my face a little bit. I'll move that over. I just figured that it would be easier on everyone's eyes if I did that. So, yeah, packaging is something that I'm like very, very passionate about, as Dave knows. I mean, this is something that we've used to, it's a perception thing. So I always look at Apple as in my own personal life. And most of the times I don't feel as passionate about Apple as I used to, because like their products like to frustrate me more now than they used to. I used to love Apple products, but like opening up an Apple product is like this experience, and like the packaging is super tight and is super high quality, and it really creates a viscerally positive experience. And that's definitely something that you can do with packaging. All right, so let's move on to the next slide here. So let's just talk about some other ways to find suppliers. Everyone seems to know about Alibaba. I'll go through these first couple ones here. I personally try to stay away from Alibaba as much as possible. I mean, it is a good place if you're just getting started, but I think that there's better places, which is why I attend the Canton Fair, Hong Kong Mega Show, Global Sources a couple of times a year. I'm usually over there at least twice a year in the spring, which is starting here in April, and the fall, which starts in October. And being able to walk the floor and touch and look and feel the stuff happens at a much faster pace than Alibaba. That's probably the biggest advantage. But also a lot of the people that go to trade shows just aren't on Alibaba. They don't want to be dealing with the minutia of dealing with Alibaba. So that's definitely another thing. And in import records, it's a little bit down and dirty using something like Import Genius or what's the other one, Dave, called? It's like Panjiva or something like that?
Yeah, Panjiva.
Panjiva. We have an Import Genius subscription now that we just got again, looking up stuff ourselves because it's a great way to find an existing product that is 95% of the way there, 85% of the way there that you already like, and then using an existing manufacturer to improve that product and make those changes that you want. So something like, again, importgenius.com or panjiva.com. It's not a cheap subscription, but it's a lot cheaper than flying to Asia and finding these manufacturers. And once you find them on Import Genius, you just do a quick Google search for that name, that manufacturer's name, and then you have your manufacturer. So we've actually used this to find manufacturers for a couple different products now, including some stuff that we're launching on Tactical. And just take a break here just real quick before we get into the other ones, Dave. We had a couple questions pop up. I'm going to butcher this name as Bavish. I apologize if you can maybe help me out with the name there. And also, I just let you know the mailman's about to walk through the front door, which you're not supposed to do. You may let him know. If you can just pop around the back for pickup.
You got that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So we had it's the problem with running the Facebook Live in the middle of the lobby. So he's asking the manufacturers take care of packaging. So in my case, we've had the manufacturer coordinate the packaging in every instance. We, at one time, were looking at using a third-party packaging manufacturer to do all of our packaging within China and then get that into the manufacturer's hands. But what ends up happening is like packaging is kind of expensive to move around. It's another point of contact, another wire transfer to send. And every manufacturer that we work with has got a packaging partner that they're working with, and they're just able to better coordinate that packaging for us. So as of right now, we haven't had any problems using the manufacturer to take care of the packaging for us. It might be a little bit more expensive doing it that way, but I don't think it's substantially more expensive. And again, it ends up being where we're just sending one wire transfer and dealing with one relationship instead of multiples.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. If you're trying to coordinate the packaging on your own, you have to focus on other things. You're basically having a whole nother supplier that you're dealing with. And like Mike said, all these manufacturers have the packaging connections already. There's no real need for you to do it on your own, unless you're doing something I mean, Mike do for a lot of our products. We have like a customized case. A lot of manufacturers, they're not going to want to go out and find a case manufacturer. So that's something that a lot of times it's better for you to handle and get them to send it in to your main manufacturer, and then they can package it together in that case.
Yep. I got a comment here from Megla, my friend Megla, who runs the Global Sources Summit. She's actually going to be the next guest on the Ecom Crew podcast. Sneak peek preview there. Thursday's episode is actually Megla. If you guys are going to be in Hong Kong during the trade fair season, Global Sources Summit is a great opportunity. Dave and I are both going to be speaking there, actually. It's a great live event, 3 days, masterminds, panels, tons of great speakers, and then also the Global Sources fair is also going on at the same time for homes and gift products and electronics. So definitely check that out, and then listen to the podcast on Thursday to hear the interview with Megla. Another quick question here from David. He's asking if you found something similar to see imports coming into Canada that's still limited to the United States. And I believe because we just signed up for Import Genius again recently, and I believe it does international, because it was actually telling me about that. It might have been an extra fee, but it was saying, do you want to see international imports as well?
No, I don't think Import Genius, I don't think Canada, the reason why you can get the import records through Import Genius is because of the Freedom of Information Act in America, and America is just a very public country in that regard, and a lot of the information they have is public. Canada doesn't have that same kind of law, so as of right now, I don't think Canada is publicly available information. So,
Okay, good to know.
When Import Genius, when they say international, it really means America, because I don't think there's any other Western countries in there. There's India and I think Argentina. For other countries, it's pretty limited.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so I guess that answers that. And it's actually, this wasn't going to be a part of the webinar, but a pro tip, you can actually block those records, which I highly recommend doing. I don't know, do we have a blog post about that, Dave, or?
Yeah, well, so for, like Mike has been talking about, if you're trying to kind of snoop on a competitor and see where they're getting their suppliers from, people are doing the exact same thing to you if you're selling on Amazon. The thing is, so you can actually have this information blocked by US Customs. And I think the email is, I wrote it down here actually, it's vessel manifest confidentiality at cpb.dhs.gov. We'll put it at the end of the slide, so you'll get these emailed later on. But the first thing that you should do if you're already selling on Amazon is email them with your company name and say, please, I request vessel confidentiality, which will ensure all of your BOLs, your bills of lading, which have all of your supplier information on it, along with all the products that you're importing. That will all of a sudden become confidential and people can't snoop you.
Very cool. All right, so Dave, you want to go over these other couple places here to find suppliers?
Yeah. So the next thing you can do is if you've never heard of it, there's Yiwu, which is just south of Shanghai in China. Yiwu is basically like a 24/7 Canton Fair. I think there's 24,000 different little shops selling every different widget that you can imagine. The problem with Yiwu is that Yiwu is great if you're selling a low quality item. It's basically, Yiwu is like the world's largest dollar store. It doesn't really fit that Amazon product mentality, which kind of aims towards a little bit higher quality product. So that's the problem with Yiwu. It really focuses on a low quality product. The advantage with Yiwu is the fact that you can order really low quantities of pretty much any item. So you can go to Yiwu, and how Yiwu works is that you basically have kind of a tour guide taking you through Yiwu, and they basically record a list of everything that you want to buy, whether it's 25 of this item and then 50 of this item. You can order really small quantities of everything, but again, they're really low quality. The next thing that you can do in terms of finding suppliers is you can go to your current suppliers and ask them to find any products that you're trying to source. And this is something I've done in a lot of my businesses. If I'm selling a garlic press and I need to have a frying pan, I'll ask the garlic press manufacturer, can you find this frying pan for me? Because most of these guys tend to be pretty well connected, and just kind of the Chinese mentality, they're happy to do everything. So if they're selling you widget A and you need widget B, ask them to try to find it for you, and a lot of times they'll be happy to, and they'll take a small commission, maybe 5 to 10%. It's a great way just to kind of find suppliers and products that you couldn't find otherwise, because you don't have those boots on the ground like they do.
So just a couple questions here. Can you type in the email address? We'll put this at the end, and also Jay-Z was nice enough to put that email address here, but we'll make sure we include that as a part of the presentation and the recording, so you have it. And Jen was asking, do you have to pay for that? Nope, it's absolutely free. It lasts for 2 years. Just a word of warning, it has to be exact. We actually did this for our company and had a comment in there, and it wasn't being blocked, and we had to go back and do it again. It is literally exact. You got to make sure then on all your imports that the manufacturer's putting it on the BOL exactly that way. But we'll put all that information in there. Jay-Z's also asking, is it worth it to go to Yiwu in your opinion? I'll give my opinion and Dave's opinion. I'll give mine as someone who hasn't been. Dave has been. We typically go after a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit higher quality products. That is more our wheelhouse. If we were going after products that were more indicative of what's at Yiwu, I think it is most likely a really great place to go, because you get exposed to lots and lots of factories very, very quickly. But it really seem like it makes sense for the types of products that we do. And Dave just posted a link here about the Yiwu market, because he's been there in detail. But if you want to maybe give a quick overview of your thoughts of the Yiwu market, Dave.
Yeah, I think you go to EWU for the same reason that you go to the Great Wall. It's kind of it's a tourist site.
Nice.
It's not necessarily a business venture, at least not for Amazon sellers. Like I mentioned, if you're running a dollar store, that's fine. It kind of caters to that market. Amazon sellers, I think it's pretty tough. You have an extra day or two, especially if you're in the Shanghai area. You can take a train down there. You can stay one night. You could even do it in one day. Go down there. It's really fascinating. But in terms of finding quality products, I think it's pretty tough.
Cool. We're going to hop on to the next slide here. So this is Dave's, one of Dave's favorite things, which is finding low MOQs. It doesn't really apply particularly to our business here over at Terran anymore, because we're ordering things that require more than an MOQ type order. But if you're just getting started specifically, it's a huge advantage and something we used to do a lot. And or if you're doing bigger and or more expensive products, it can come in very, very handy. But the MOQ, let's just define that first of all. We always try to make sure these days that we talk about acronyms. MOQ is minimum order quantity. And suppliers have MOQs because they're not in the retail business, right? They're not looking to sell you 1, 2, or 3 widgets. They want to sell you hundreds or thousands of widgets, and they don't keep stock on hand just like to have this for you. So it's important for them to have an MOQ just to make it worth their while to do the order. But Dave, since you're like so passionate about this, I really want to let you take this particular topic because this is something that we've talked about this a lot. I mean, you've really had a lot of success with this. Yeah. And I mean, you've built like your whole new business. Like I'm sure people have been keeping track of your off-roading journey on Ecom Crew, but like your whole new business is basically built off of this. So yeah, take a few minutes and let's talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, this has kind of been my strategy ever since I started in e-commerce almost 10 years ago. So my strategy always is try to get a really small shipment in, then, like 5 to 10 items, then go to an MOQ, and then go up to a bigger order. And the reason why I do the MOQ, even if you're in a position to order a full container, is for a couple of reasons. Number one, you want to test the product. Obviously, you want to work out the kinks. You don't want to work out the kinks on 20,000 items. You want to work it out on 200 items. If there's a problem, it's easier to fix. Number two is just for the fact that if you send in, for example, a container of items to Amazon and you get a couple of really bad reviews in the beginning, as we all probably know, that's going to pretty much stall your sales right away. And what you really have to do is you have to kind of recall those items and rebarcode them and relaunch them. Obviously, nobody wants to have that happen, where you get a couple negative reviews from the beginning. But if it happens, you don't want it sinking a huge order of products. So that's kind of my mentality for MOQs, why I do it, even if I don't necessarily need it for cash flow reasons, or even if I think that I can sell more than the MOQ. That's kind of my rationale behind doing it. Now, to what Mike mentioned, why suppliers have it, you really have to ask yourself why they have an MOQ. Like Mike mentioned, they're not in the retail business, but they normally have a few different reasons why they have MOQs. The first reason is they just don't keep stock of the item, so they have to produce that item for you. If that's the case, it's really tough to get them to negotiate down on that MOQ, just for the fact that they're going to have to fire up their machine that has a certain fixed cost to it, and they can't do it for just a few items. If that is the case, so what you can do is you can ask to have your item co-produced with another customer. So another customer orders 10,000 widgets. You say, okay, when that customer orders, can you add on 1,000 widgets for me? The next thing you can do, or the next reason why a supplier would have an MOQ, is that there's simply too much work and money to deal with small orders. They have the item in stock. They don't have to fire up the machine, but it's just a pain in the ass to deal with a small order and a small customer. So in these cases, what you really have to do is you have to appeal to just being a non-needy customer. You have to appeal to basically their greed for getting your order, even if it is small, as long as it means little work for them. So if that's the case, what you want to do is offer to pay 100%. Don't nickel and dime them on every price. Don't make customization requests. Don't ask stupid questions. If they have a high MOQ, just pretty much be ready to pay and offer to send the money more or less the next day if they agree to that MOQ. And the third reason why a supplier might have an MOQ, and this is really common, is that they think that you need some type of customization to that product. And the most common one that people think, suppliers think that you need, is they think that you need a full color box. And the thing is, if you're ordering garlic presses, that needs to go in a box. And if it needs to go in a full color box, that garlic press manufacturer isn't making the garlic press box themselves. They're ordering that and they have an MOQ when they order it. So even though they're happy to sell you 50 garlic presses, they know that they have to order 500 boxes at a time. Therefore, they're going to give you an MOQ of the garlic press for 500 units. So in this case, what you have to do is you just have to explain to them, no, you can ship it in a plain box. Just put our barcode on it. Just make it clear to them that you don't really need a lot of customization. And in that case, they're a lot of times a lot more flexible in dealing with a small MOQ order.
Yep. So got a couple questions here. Definitely good stuff, Dave. Fernando's saying, I might have missed this information. What's the best way to find a dependable and trustworthy supplier? You did miss those slides, Fernando, but we do have a recording of this. And if you happen to ever join our course, we can take a deep dive in that stuff as well. Anthony says, excuse me, sorry about that. Is a common practice to ask your supplier to lower the price of your goods on the commercial invoice to lower the duty fees? I do think it's common practice. I think it's wrong. I think it's like probably borderline morally wrong. I don't necessarily agree with some of the tax rates, but they are what they are. I don't do this, but it's very easily done. And I don't know that's there's much that anybody can do about it. So if that's something that you feel like is a good way to save money in your business, it's probably pretty easy to have the manufacturer put a different number on the invoice than what you're actually paying. Quite frankly, I don't know how anybody would ever know.
Yeah, they do. I mean, yeah, it's tough for the government to figure that out. I know a lot of people do it. The thing you got to be careful of, if you ever do get nailed, and they can figure out what a reasonable market value of the product is. So if they know that every product cost is $10 and you're claiming 1 penny, they can use that as reasonable proof to nail you for it. And they will 100% go back through every single record that you've had and nail you for back duties, taxes, and if you get busted, it'll almost certainly destroy your business. So
yeah, it also probably would like put you on some sort of blacklist that constantly makes your stuff take a lot longer to get through customs moving forward. And yeah, so I mean, I don't know, like this is but I do know, I actually know personally people that do this all the time. I've been told this is something I should do. I just I don't know. This is not one of these things that I want to do in my business. I got too many other things to worry about. I don't need the government like being one of them. So we pay our taxes and pay our duties.
Yeah, one thing I'll mention on that, a lot of times suppliers will kind of bake in like freight costs and everything into the invoice and to the product value. Then you're paying a duty on that when you import it into the country, even though that's not really a direct product cost. So you're basically paying duty on shipping.
Yep.
If you can have your supplier kind of line item that as much as possible, it could save you quite a bit of money.
Yep. So it says the food in Yiwu is great. I think the food in China just in general is really good. I prefer dumplings. So like Southern China seems to have more dumplings than Yiwu maybe. Let's see, Mathis, when you say you co-produce with another customer, what is the other customer has their logo on the product? Can they still co-produce? So I think that in this case, they're like, let's just say it's like a pair of gloves, which we're developing right now for tactical, and we're having like our logo like sewn onto the glove or whatever. I think that you probably would just not have your logo on it, right? In that case, because the MOQ would be higher to get your logo on it or something like that. So this is just a good way to do quick iterative testing. So basically like while you wait while someone else is getting theirs done and they just skip that step for you would be the idea.
Yeah, and if the logo is on the actual product, it's tough. 9 times out of 10 though, the logo isn't on the product, it's on the packaging. And in that case, they'll just use a different box for you.
Yep. Next question here. How likely is it for a factory to steal your idea? If I approach them with my design and they later see I'm selling it, how can I prevent them from copying my product? I mean, this is an ongoing issue within China. It's not super easy to prevent. We try to develop really good relationships with our manufacturers and try to develop exclusivity with a product. If you're using your own mold, it's a little bit easier to defend. but even still, they can use your mold. We actually have a problem with the factory right now that has copied one of our products. And in the process, they used our plates that we use to put names on our product. And the way that we've had to solve it was to make it a really, really bad day for the people selling it in the United States because it's a copyright violation. And so basically it's gotten back to the manufacturer now. I think that it'll stop because they've screwed several people that have bought that product using our intellectual property. And I'm a really nice, open guy and love to help people out and very friendly, as you guys can probably tell from like all the things that we do with the Ecom crew. But like one thing I just won't tolerate is someone stealing our stuff. And so it's something that we're definitely very cognizant of and adamant about. You can put things in the purchase order. There's some legal documents and stuff you can create. It depends on how far you want to take this. We've watched some really great presentations at Global Sources Summit specifically about this, where there's some legal documents and stuff you can put in place in your business to help protect you a little bit more with this. And China is less of a wild, wild west than it used to be with this in this regard. If you have some of the documentation, especially if you make it a part of your purchase order, you can protect yourself more than you might think. But it's still, if you have something successful, it might not be your factory that causes the problem. Like all that stuff doesn't stop another factory from completely ripping you off. Just a real quick story. One of the very first factories I ever went to in China, I went back to their, I swear to God, this is exactly what happened. He was like, let me go show you our R&D room. It was a room in the very back of the factory, and somebody was disassembling stitch by stitch. I think it was a Coach purse, but it might have been a different brand. This is a textiles factory. They were literally disassembling it stitch by stitch, and they had taken every piece of the purse and mapped out like the footprint of each piece of fabric, and they were basically just they were preparing to make rip-off versions of that purse. So the moral of the story is, like, let's say you make a case, for instance, and it becomes a good seller on Amazon, and you have exclusivity with this factory to only sell you this case. It doesn't stop another factory from getting that same case, disassembling it, doing R&D on it, and selling the exact same thing. In fact, that's another example of, we walked through the Canton Fair and found our pencil case that we have that we designed from scratch ourselves in someone else's booth one day. And we asked about it. I was like, how much you selling this thing for? And are you guys actually the factory, et cetera? They just knocked off our design. So I think that, there's a lot to be said for being first to market and getting to #1 on Amazon, getting a lot of reviews, and letting them try to play catch up. But there's only so much you can do. And Dave, you might have some other thoughts or ideas on this.
Yeah, and I think what's going to happen. You don't really stop it in China because you're not in China. It's hard for you to stop and enforce and police. Stopping in China really begins with trying to build trust with your supplier. Hopefully, you find a supplier that you just have a good feeling about. Because if you don't really have that relationship, then it's business. Your IP, if you have IP, you probably don't if it's a design. You're definitely not going to have that IP in China. So there's nothing legally stopping them from producing it. It's business. If you do have IP, though, again, you're not going to have it in China. You'll have it in America. You have to enforce it in America, and that's kind of where the buck stops. Don't try to get it to stop in China. And if you're trying to do anything to stop it in China, aside from building trust with your supplier, it's going to be pretty tough.
Yep. All right. So on the next slide here, trial orders, basically like the silver, tongue-tied, silver bullet for MOQs. I really love this slide. I think it's very pertinent to like a lot of the negotiations that we have with manufacturers when we're placing initial orders. Manufacturers love hearing this, right? You want to try to convince them that you're a bigger player than you are. I think this is typical of any type of business thing or any type of negotiation. And you basically say, look, like we want to order a full container of this product on our next order, but we want to make sure of the following things, and all the things that Dave just kind of mentioned, like that the reviews are good, that you guys make good quality, that we can trust you, et cetera. So like, we're only going to order this smaller order, whatever the amount is, this first time. And next time we'll order a minimum order of XYZ, whatever that number is. And this seems to work really well, getting the MOQ down for orders within China. So it's a really good tactic. Do you take that exact same type of approach with it, Dave, or do you do something a little bit subtly different there?
Well, here's what I do. If you ask for a sample from a supplier, they'll always send you one sample. They're not going to say, no, you have to order 500 pieces. Now, if you ask them, though, instead of sending you one sample, can you send me 20? As long as it's your first order, they'll normally agree to it. And the problem is, if you get one product, you can't do anything. You can't do a little test run on Amazon with one product. You sell one product in a day, that doesn't really prove anything. You have 20 products, you get them into Amazon, they sell out in a day, you've kind of validated your product for really cheap. You know that you can probably order 500 units and they're going to sell reasonably well. So that's what I always do. I don't ask for one product as a sample. I ask for, can you send me a case? And that case allows me to at least try to sell it on Amazon or wherever, validate the product a little bit more than you can do with one product.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting tactic. I've never actually tried to do that. Again, we're typically, just so you guys know the difference between Dave and my business. I mean, Dave's typically doing things that you would want fewer items of, like your MOQ, your order of it, the quantity that you're ordering, whatever that's on that PO, is going to be typically a much smaller number for Dave, even though the dollar value might be very similar. We're just doing things that are higher volume type items. I just discovered a new feature here. There's a Q&A box. I apologize to Anthony for not seeing this one sooner and seeing the Q&A box. If you guys have questions, this is a great place to do that. So I can click, I guess, answer live. So Anthony says, here's my question in the proper Q&A box. Feel free to answer when you have time. Is it a common practice to ask your supplier to lower the price of your goods? Oh, we already answered this one versus on the commercial invoice. Sorry about that. Didn't realize that that was already answered. And then anonymous, but I read the next part of this, is that my name is John. So John, thank you for joining us tonight. Is it your experience that whatever you sell on Amazon, no matter what, if you bundle, etc., if it sells well, it will get copied? And that's certainly my experience. I think that here's how I look at this, right? And here's how I've come at peace with this particular thing. Let's say it is a garlic press, right? Let's say you're selling a garlic press. Amazon is a search intent-based platform. So someone's typing in garlic press into the search box. You are never, ever going to get 100% of the sales for garlic press. So, my business model is to capture 5%, 12%, whatever the number is of those searches. I feel like that's the best I'm ever going to do. I'm never going to, I might be the number one seller. I might be selling more garlic presses than everybody else, but I'm never going to be selling all the garlic presses on Amazon. And if people need to copy me, if that's like the only way that they can do business is to just knock off my product and copy me verbatim, or copy my product by making a small little tweak and not putting a lot of effort into it, and they can beat me, then I feel like that's my fault, right? I mean, like, I have a head start. I'm hopefully doing a much better job with branding and other things in the process, things that we talk about specifically in our course, to differentiate ourselves and make us different over a long period of time, rather than like focusing on the short term and just knocking somebody off. And I in order for me to keep my sanity, I have to accept this as what's going to inevitably happen. Everyone has access to Jungle Scout. It's not very difficult to find what products are doing well. And there's thousands upon thousands of people doing that nonstop. So it's just something that I've had to accept, I guess, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, it's business. It's, there's a business theory for this. The efficient frontier. Everywhere, you have a period where you have more or less a monopoly on the market, and eventually that just goes away. And it doesn't matter if it's Amazon or if you're selling an Apple iPhone. In 2008, you're the first company with a web-enabled phone. Eventually, everybody else comes out with that and copies it. It doesn't matter if it's Amazon or anywhere else. You don't have an infinite monopoly on a market, and maybe Amazon's a smaller period of time than other channels, but it's going to happen no matter where you sell and what you sell.
Yep, I agree. Stefan, how do you ship samples? I currently pay $120 to ship a sample product. I ship all samples. Either I get the manufacturers to do it directly, and they'll usually charge somewhere between $30 to $50 to ship it for me. Or I use something called InExpress. It's InExpress without the E. So it's INXPRESS. They are a DHL, I think the right word is like aggregator or whatever they call it. Basically, you're getting Fortune 500 DHL rates. You get a DHL account number. Even if you only import one thing per year, your rates will be significantly cheaper. I don't know how much your product weighs, Stefan, but assuming it's, let's say 5 pounds or less, $120 is absolutely ridiculous. And you can get that price down.
Yeah, I mean, for one product, and this is kind of comes down to this trial order, the silver bullet, there's such a high fixed cost when you ship from China. If you're shipping one product, it's probably $120. If you ship 20, it's maybe $220. That's
we've been paying way less than 120. I would definitely check out InExpress. And then, like I said, a lot of times the manufacturer we PayPal them or whatever, let them do it on their dime, and it's usually something like in the $50 range. But
yeah, I guess if it's a particularly small item, that might be the case. I think if you're somewhere around that 5 to 10 pound mark, I think $100 is probably reasonable.
So Dave thinks $120 is fairly reasonable then. It seems a little high to me, but it's actually interesting because Stefan says below $5 he's using InExpress for DHL. So maybe that's more the going rate. And I'm actually removed from a lot of this part of stuff from our business these days. I haven't personally been the one arranging that shipping for like 4 years. So maybe prices are higher than I realized for that sample. It does seem high for me because I do make the PayPal payments. Like when we get a trial order for like a onesie from a manufacturer and they're the ones shipping it, it's usually in that $50 to $60 range at the most. So I hope that's helpful. There's a little bit difference of opinion there. The Q&A is blowing up. Let's go to the next slide just a little bit, and then we'll go back to the Q&A. Negotiation strategies. Everyone loves to save money. I think that number one, people, they focus too much just on the price of the product. They get fixated on that. There's a lot of really good other things that you can be doing with your manufacturer that have extrinsic benefits to you other than just paying less money for the widget. And we've already gone over the whole idea of getting a trial order and getting your MOQ lowered. Getting a lower MOQ on your first order, even though they might not be lowering the cost of the actual item, has a benefit. Like you're tying up less cash, you're risking less, you're getting an opportunity to test your product, et cetera, et cetera. So the amount you're actually paying for the widget on that first order isn't the be all end all. There's other things to consider. And what you'll find is that as you're going through your importing business more and more, cash and time will become your two only limiting factors. And if you're getting to the point where we're at, where you're trying to efficiently use your cash as best as possible to develop as many new products as you can, having to place big bets on brand new products isn't the best and most effective use of cash. So negotiating this MOQ down can be a very effective opportunity and negotiation tactic on your first order.
Yeah, and I think the point is too that your first order, it's really tough to negotiate on price because they don't know anything about you. Everybody who emails a supplier in Alibaba says, yeah, I'm going to import a 20-foot container, but I just want 20 units right now, but can you give me that 20-foot container price? Everybody's trying to do that. So, price isn't going to be the first thing that you should negotiate. And for most people, it's going to be MOQ that you're trying to negotiate down. And to try to negotiate anything further than that is pretty tough. And the second thing, I guess we'll kind of go back and forth here, take a couple at a time. The second thing you should do on second order, when you order those samples, again, if you have your supplier ship it on their penny, get back that they're going to charge you for it. Get them to refund you that charge on your next order. So if you pay $300 for a sample and shipping, get them to give you that $300 refund on your next order, because most of them always say, oh yeah, on your full production order, we'll give you back that money. They'll never give it back to you though if you don't ask. So make sure that you ask for it back. By the time that you do your third order, at that point, you probably have a reasonable size order. If you've kind of proven your product enough that you're ordering it for a third time. By that point, you can try to negotiate freight terms. So a lot of times what suppliers are doing now in China is they're charging you an EXW price instead of an FOB price. And EXW basically means that you're on the hook for going to their factory, picking up that product, paying for the overland freight to the port, paying all the export fees, and it can be pretty significant. So by the third order, you should definitely be making sure that you're on FOB terms or better. If you're still charging EXW, it's a really high extra cost that you're paying.
Yeah, I just real quick, Dave, I just want to interrupt. We always try to do a acronym alert here. People that don't know what FOB or EXW stands for. So FOB means free on board. Both of these terms are kind of silly. The free on board basically just means, as Dave was saying, that it's being delivered all the way to the port, that you're responsible for freight starting basically when it gets to the port of Shanghai or the port of wherever that might be being shipped from. And then EXW stands for Ex Works, which means that you're responsible for paying the freight starting when it leaves the factory, so the journey it has to take, it could be hundreds of miles from the factory over to the port, what you're responsible for. So FOB, free on board, and EXW is Ex Works.
Yeah, and a lot of people forget how big China is, and they think that every supplier is really close to a port, or that you can get shipping in China, overland shipping, for really cheap. It's expensive. It's comparable to what it is in America. If you're trying to ship something from Seattle down to LA, probably, if you've ever done it, you know that's a lot of money. And it's the same thing if you're trying to ship something from Chengdu, which is in central China, all the way to the port of Shanghai. So it's just something to be really aware of. Try to negotiate those freight terms by your third order. At the same time, what you can do is you can also negotiate your payment terms. Again, a lot of suppliers now are really nickel and diming buyers, and they're requiring 100% payment up front, perhaps even 50% payment up front and 50% when the order is done. By the third order, you should really, at a minimum, be at what they call a 30-70 payment schedule. So you pay a 30% deposit, and you pay the remaining 70% when your order ships. And I'll just kind of finish off the list here. By your fourth order, you can start negotiating packaging costs. So ask them to pay for your full color boxes, ask them to pay for any additional packaging. Again, this money adds up, so it's better to have your supplier pay for it than for you to pay for it out of your pocket. Fifth order, again, this is one little kind of hack that I use to save a lot of money in my company, is the cost of freight. If we sell online, most of us sellers know that we don't like to give discounts on prices, but we all offer free shipping. Same thing in China. The suppliers much prefer to give free shipping opposed to giving a price discount. So if you make a $10,000 order and you ask for a 10% discount, they might kind of balk at that and say, oh, no way. But if you ask for them to give you a $1,000 freight credit, sure, no problem. It's just the same mentality for whatever reason in China that we have in North America, that we're happy to pay for shipping, but we don't want to give a price discount. And the final thing, by your sixth order, what you can do is you can start to negotiate payment terms. And again, a lot of people don't realize this in China, that the suppliers will actually give you credit. Kind of like in America, how a lot of business is done on what they call net 30. You get the product first and you pay 30 days after. Suppliers in China will actually do this if you have enough either personal trust with them or actual credit with them. I've had actual suppliers in China do a credit check on me in Canada, and it's really weird when you get a call from a credit check agency in America or Canada wanting credit profile information on you. But again, these suppliers in China are sophisticated, and a lot of times they will give you credit if they have enough trust in you.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually one of the most valuable things that Dave has ever taught me. When this first came up, I was like, did one of these like, what? Like you can do it, just, I don't know, like it always seemed to me like it was just the generally accepted thing that you pay the 30% deposit and 70% before it ships. So we just had been doing that since the beginning of time. And then after Dave and I talked, we've now been pushing that envelope, and we just do that slowly. So like if you had like 7th, 8th, and 9th order on this slide, like basically every order, we're kind of constantly pushing that envelope to either giving no deposit or paying no final delivery fee until like net 30, until after it hits the port. Again, as I said, like your cash becomes one of your most limiting factors. So in your first couple orders, if you're flush with cash because you're just getting started, it's not as big of a deal. But extrapolate that over a $10 million business like we're trying to generate this year, this becomes a bigger and bigger factor. And like being able to pay for something 30 days later is a massive benefit for us. So
Yeah.
I see. I'm sorry. Go ahead, David. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, in the overall theme, the more orders that you do with the supplier, chances are good that your order size is also increasing over time with it. It's a lot harder to negotiate on a really small order than it is on a really big order. So over time, every order, just try to negotiate a little bit more, kind of turn up the heat on the crab, so to speak. So every order, just negotiate a little bit more, and by the time that you're doing your fourth, fifth, sixth order, you can get a lot bigger discount than trying to ask for it all at once.
Yeah. So I was just going to say there's like a ton of Q&A, which is awesome. We really want to get to those, but we're also starting to run out of time a little bit here. So I'm going to try to just finish up the presentation, and then we'll get to the Q&A here at the end. So please keep on putting your Q&A in the Q&A box, and we'll definitely get to those. I'll try to get to every single one of them at the end here. I think there's only a few more slides left, so we'll be able to get to the Q&A here very shortly. So let's get into some shipping hacks. This is actually something that is so important to us that we're hiring a full-time person just to deal with some of this stuff. And this first one here, combining shipments from multiple suppliers. If one of your biggest limiting factors in this business is cash, one of your biggest costs on the other side of the coin is shipping. You look at your, and this is, but only up to a point, right? So like once you get to the point where you're shipping full 40-foot containers, there is no more cost savings past that point. Shipping 2 40-foot containers will basically cost you the cost of 1 container times 2. Like there's just like you're hit max efficiency at that point. There's a couple other like little fees and stuff that kind of change that a little bit. So it's more like whatever it costs to ship 1 40-foot container times 2.01. It's not much difference at that point. But like, so the quicker you can get to shipping full 40-foot containers or a full 20-foot container or whatever it might be. And I realize obviously when you're first getting started, this is impossible. I get it, but this should be your goal. You should be trying to head towards combining shipments, and the cost of shipping a 20-foot container versus a 40-foot container is only like $500. So like you're basically doubling the amount that you can ship for just a few $100s more. This is a really important factor on the other side of the coin. Now, Dave, take the next one. This is actually like an extreme example of the other side of it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're first starting and depending on what you ship, if you ship something really small and light, this applies to you, using de minimis to your advantage. So America, I have no idea why you guys did this, but you make it so, I'm not American, by the way, but America has it. So if you import anything $800 or below into America, it's duty-free, tax-free, which is absolutely crazy. Most countries are $20. So you can really use that to your advantage. I know a lot of people who do this. They ship really small and light items, and every order is $799 into America. They pay no duties, no other brokerage fees. And if you're first starting off, you can do an $800 order. That's probably, for a lot of people, kind of their upper limit. Make sure it's $799, not $801.
Yep.
Kind of play with that to your advantage.
Absolutely. The next one here, get your supplier to do all of your labeling. I mean, there's a couple different options if your supplier is not doing it. It's either going to be a 3PL, a third-party logistics company that will take your stuff as it comes into the United States before it goes into Amazon, and they typically will offer labeling services. Or you can have Amazon do it, and they'll charge you 20 cents per item to label your package, your items. So getting the manufacturer to do this for you, they'll typically do it for free. Or in our case, a lot of times we'll integrate the barcodes into the packaging, so it's even easier. But this is a pretty big cost in the grand scheme of things, 20 cents per item. We actually have a couple legacy situations where Amazon does label for us. It's a long story, but this is costing us, just with this one manufacturer that we work with, like $600 to $700 per shipment, and we're doing that every month. So it's $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 per year in just labeling fees, which in a low margin business, that's a huge amount of money to like be able to put on the bottom line if you're able to get that done at the supplier level. So this is something people don't really think about. They're excited to get their products into the United States, get them into Amazon, but get your supplier to do this work for you. Again, they'll typically just do this for free. And free is better than 20 cents per item.
Yeah, man, it's free money. And then kind of while we're on that topic too, I mean, it's strategies to get your shipments to one FBA warehouse and get your stuff to FBA cheaper. Like Mike mentioned, he has a legacy item which has to be barcoded. So Amazon will divide your shipments for a couple of reasons. Number one, just simply to disperse your stuff throughout America, just to make it easier to get to the customer. But they'll also do it for two other reasons. Number one, they never send, or very, very rarely, send a standard size item and an oversized item to the same warehouse. Almost never will they do that. They'll almost always have it going to two different locations. So if, and again, this is something I've discovered the hard way, if you have a standard size item and you have an oversized item, try to avoid combining them into the same shipment from China, because it's just going to basically double the amount of warehouses that your shipments will go to when they do finally hit the shores of America. And the other situation where Amazon will split your shipments is if your shipments require prep. So like in Mike's case, he's having to have an item barcoded. Again, normally that will happen at a different warehouse than a standard size item that didn't need prep would go to. It's not always the case, but a lot of times if you try this, you ship two SKUs, you make a shipment on Amazon, one of them needs prep and one of them doesn't need prep, they'll send it to two different warehouses simply because one of them needs prep.
Even more frustrating, they'll have it go to the same warehouse in two separate shipments, which is even more frustrating.
Yes. The other strategies that you can use to kind of eliminate, or not eliminate, but reduce the number of warehouses that you have your products going to at FBA. This one's a little bit gray hat, I guess. So everybody creates a shipment. So you have 1,000 units. You create a shipment for 1,000 units within Amazon. They're probably going to divide that shipment to, say, 2 or 3 different warehouses. Technically, what you could do, you want to send all 1,000 units to one warehouse, you could create a shipment for, say, 1,500 units. They'll have 1,000 units go to one warehouse and then have the other 500 units go to another warehouse. You could theoretically ship all 1,000 units to a warehouse and forget about the other 2 shipments that you created. Amazon hasn't cracked down on that yet, but a lot of people are doing this. They ignore the other small orders to other warehouses.
This would definitely be in the gray hat area. We don't recommend necessarily doing this.
No, I don't recommend it. But what you can do to your advantage, you can ship those at a very, very later date. Amazon doesn't have any shipping window. If you create a shipment and there's 3 different shipments, Amazon doesn't say that you have to ship all those in a week. You can ship to one warehouse and then the other 2 shipments ship in a month or 2. There's no requirement, as far as I know, with Amazon to have a significant delay in between shipments. And I think that those are kind of the strategies that you can use to really reduce the number of warehouses that you have your stuff going to from FBA and save a bunch of money.
Yep. All right, let's hit the next slide here. Oh, I think we're getting close to the end here. So again, we'll get to all the Q&A here in just a minute. We want to tell you guys about a couple of things. First off, Dave and I, in a rare stroke of genius, are going to be in the same city at the same time. This does not happen very often, unfortunately. But we are going to both be speaking at the Global Sources Summit. We had a discount code that's going to be on the podcast. I think it's ECC 100. If you're going to Global Sources Summit, you get $100 off that. But right afterwards, on April 21st, we're going to be hosting our first ever mastermind. It'll be a small group of people, $299. It includes us doing some presentations, basically unlimited Q&A, networking with other people there, lunch on us, an entire day of nerding out about e-commerce. If you're interested in going to be in Hong Kong on the 21st, we'd love to see you there. You can go to ecomcrew.com/mastermind. It's $299 to join that and join us for the day there in Hong Kong. And the other thing is we have our courses. If you guys aren't aware, Dave and I put out some courses here recently, product niche, building a 7-figure brand on Amazon, and also importing from China, basically a lot of the things that we talked here today about, but in a lot more depth. And we have a special bundle for people that were on the webinar. You can go to ecomcrew.com/webdeal. And this is only going to be good through tomorrow night at midnight. We had just recently launched the course with a similar deal, but this will be the last time we offer it at this price. We actually been just raising our price every time we re-release it because we're just trying to get as many people right now to do it so we can get some testimonials. But the next time we release this will be at full price. It'll be $497 per course. And right now you'll get both for a 2-for-1 deal. So ecomcrew.com/web deal if you're interested in joining Dave and I to have multiple hours of stuff that we just talked about like this in a more organized, in-depth format. You can go check that out, ecomcrew/web deal. ecomcrew.com/mastermind. Again, if you're interested in joining us in Hong Kong for the mastermind on the 21st, we'd love to see you there. And then we have some links here that are just helpful for you, no cost, obviously. We were talking about ways to get ideas and find suppliers and things of that nature. 1688.com is a great place to do that. You'll need Google Translate or a Chinese mother-in-law like I have, or in Dave's case, a Chinese wife to be able to, that can read and translate Chinese for you. But it's a great resource. ChinaExhibition.com, a great place to find all the other trade shows that are in China. Import Genius and Panjiva we talked about earlier in this presentation, but you can go to importgenius.com or panjiva.com. Those links are there for you to have, and everyone's going to get a copy of this, or you can ask us for a copy of the slides that has this information if you're looking for that. So I believe that's the last slide there. Let me leave that up. So you guys, if you're interested in the course through tomorrow night, after that, we're going to be doubling the price. So it's a great deal for right now. But in the meantime, let's get through the Q&A. Dave, I know you had to leave relatively soon, but I think you still have like another 15, 20 minutes maybe to get through some of this Q&A.
I have a train to catch at 10:20 my time, so I have about 15 minutes. Okay,
so I'm going to kick in the high gear. I already talk fast, but I'm going to try to get through as many of these so we can be a part of this together. So Dwight's asking, can't you enforce IP through U.S. customs before counterfeits even enter the country? I don't believe so. I'm not aware of that. We've had to stop it by sending cease and desist letters from lawyers directly to the companies once we see it for sale on a U.S. marketplace. I am not aware of a way to get customs to stop it at the border. Are you, Dave?
I know they'll do it for big brands for trademark infringement. Something like patent infringement, which is always a super, super gray area, even for a court. U.S. Customs is never going to enforce that. Trademark infringement, they will for the super big companies. Doesn't apply to any of us, though.
Okay. Ramon is asking, what is the most common mistake new companies make when importing from China? Let's give two answers. I'll give you my answer, and sure. Dave, I'll be interested in what your answer would be. I think the biggest mistake is that people do not get inspections for whatever reason. I don't know. I think it's important to get inspections on every order. Dave, I think disagrees. He's had a different.
No.
Oh, okay.
I was pondering it.
Oh, okay. It was a pondering look, but yeah, I think that this is something that you don't want to cut corners on. We don't have the link here, but if you go to ecomcrew.com/inspection, we are partnered with Asia Inspection to do that. You can also have them go out and do a factory audit and make sure that, depending on the size of the order, is how much effort you want to put into doing this type of stuff, right? It's the same type of thing with insurance. We don't really insure most of our shipments because we can self-insure it, but when it's over a certain dollar value, we do insure it. So it's the same thing with a factory audit. You can pay someone like Asia Inspection to go out, do a factory audit, make sure that they're a legitimate company, that everything's in line. But I'm not going to pay that money if I'm doing a $2,000 order. It doesn't make sense. But if it's a $200,000 order, you can bet your butt that I'm going to go out and have Asia Inspection do a full audit on them. But no matter what size the order is, I always have an inspection done. I don't want an issue where the stuff ends up in the United States where I am powerless to fix an issue. So even if it's a $2,000 order, we get an inspection done on every order. So that's my mistake.
I would agree with you that it's definitely a quality issue. A lot of people are afraid importing from China because they're afraid that the supplier is going to take their money. Almost never happens. I've actually never met anybody who's had that happen to them. What happens, like Mike says, is it's shitty quality products. Inspections are great to get done if you know what you're looking for. And Mike, I think probably by this time has kind of a checklist that he goes through. Chances are, though, if you're importing a product for the first time, you don't really have an inspection checklist to go through, and the inspection company is not necessarily going to know what to look for. If you're importing a garlic press or a rope, they won't know what kind of quality defects to look for. So unless you have a checklist, aside from verifying that the products are actually there, they might not necessarily be able to detect really low quality products. And how you hedge your bets there, in my opinion, it's don't put all your eggs in one basket on the first order. Get a low quantity order to begin with, figure out any kinks or anything you need to discuss with your manufacturer, and then put all your eggs in one basket if you need to.
Very good. John says, thanks, Mike. It was so long ago, I forgot honestly what the question was, but you're welcome. Let's see. Stefan says he's also using InExpress for DHL, so they're definitely a good resource. And he says that his shipments are below 5 pounds. He says, I have one more question. Do you have a backup manufacturer? Do you rely on one specific one? For everything that we do, we only have one manufacturer. This does cause, I know why you're asking this, it causes me stress as well. But it's very difficult to have a backup manufacturer unless you're having a backup manufacturer actually manufacturing stuff for you as well. So we have amassed additional contacts if like the crap ever hits the fan and we need to switch. But it's a precarious situation to be in. There's no doubt about it. We've had it a couple times where a manufacturer has done a good job and then flaked out on us later. And it's caused us to stock out on something while we waited to fix that problem. But we aren't big enough to the point where we're bringing in multiple 40-foot containers of one product per month to the point where like we want to split that up and have 2 manufacturers actually producing our goods. So if a situation ever happened where one of them flaked out, that we could just seamlessly move the other orders over. I think you have to be at a much bigger scale than we are. And like I said, we're at a point where we're looking at doing 10 million this year. Certainly at a minimum, we'll be in the high 7 figures. And this is something that we haven't even been able to even really consider. So I think that the answer is no, basically.
Yeah, and I've been in the case, again, like you, Mike, I've had manufacturers twice basically cut me off and say, sorry, Dave, we can't work with you anymore for whatever reason. A lot of times another guy comes in and it's an exclusivity deal with the supplier and I'm the one that suffers from it. And it's terrible when you have a really great selling product and you get cut off immediately.
Yep.
I think the only thing you can do, like Mike says, you can't have things being produced at 2 manufacturers. What you can kind of do though is have a Rolodex of who you would potentially contact if you did get cut off. At least have someone that you've at least had dialogue with, ideally at a trade show, you've walked around, you found a couple other companies that could potentially make your product, have them in the back of your mind as a backup.
Yep. So Dennis is asking, where's the best place to buy UPCs? How does Amazon screen UPCs? Quite frankly, I bought through a reseller. I am very aware now that Amazon has changed their policy that you're required to have your own, what they call GS1 barcodes, which is basically like a $10,000 investment. We have not had a problem with Amazon pushing back on our barcodes. Luckily, I guess. So the true answer is you need to go buy your own GS1 barcodes to be 100% compliant to Amazon's new rules here. So I don't really want to make a recommendation of where else to buy them because I think that the new letter of the law is that you have to have your own GS1.
Yeah, and I think if Amazon ever does start cracking down on that, I don't know how they could ever really crack down on it now because I'd venture to guess it's a pretty significant number of sellers who are using resold barcodes and they're not going to ultimately axe all that inventory on their warehouses. So
yeah,
how they ever deal with it, I don't know.
Okay, so Tony's asking, thanks guys, I really appreciate it. You're welcome. When you have time for questions, question 1 here, he has 2. How to ensure quality? My sample was good, but then over 80% of my first run had major and minor issues. Should I spec the acceptable type of errors like AQL limits in my contract? Yes, you should, absolutely. So what we do is we tell all the manufacturers up front we are going to get an inspection. Like, don't screw around with us. Like, quality is our number 1 factor. We will get an inspection. We've now also put it in our PO that if we have to do our re-inspection because we failed inspection, that you have to pay for it, that you being the manufacturer. Even though it's only $300, like to get it re-inspected, like Chinese factories hate like these types of fees. So it just makes them take a little bit extra care in getting it right. we try our best to define like what is going to be an acceptable limit of errors. 80% having problems is way out of bounds. This is a really bad situation to be in because the default position for Chinese manufacturers is always we'll fix it on the next order. The next order will be better. Like it's always the next order. And that sucks, man. Like, I mean, you're going to be in this back and forth position, but whatever you do, like, do not send them the final payment amount until you're satisfied, because like once you pay them, you've lost all your leverage. So, maybe promise them a repeat business, maybe even offer to pay a little bit here because it is so out of bounds, 80%. Sometimes you have to work with them to try to like come up with the best solution to the situation, even though like it sucks for you. But I would not accept it. Absolutely would not accept this. And a friend of mine actually just yesterday sent me an inspection report that had quote unquote failed, that had a slew of minor infractions. And I was like, dude, like just accept this. Like, there's lots of pictures in there. They were being overly critical. So like, the first thing is like, make sure that the inspector is not being overly critical. You mentioned here, like you have major issues. Those are critical, but like the minor issues for this particular thing, the inspector was just being absolutely overly critical. Like if he had not taken my advice and pushed back on this manufacturer, he would have done nothing but piss them off. It was ridiculous.
You're walking such a fine line there. If it's minor issues like loose threads where it doesn't really matter, and you're rejecting that and saying, no, you have to cut every single loose thread off, good luck doing business with that supplier ever again.
Yeah.
You don't want to piss them off so much where you can never work with them again. You really have to be critical of that inspection report. Are the major issues really major? Are the minor, or do you really care? Or the inspector's reason for being there is to basically fail an inspection. If something does get overlooked that they approved, they're on the hook.
Yep.
So they're going to want to be overly critical. So you got to take that inspection report with a huge grain of salt.
Yep, absolutely. And Tony's second question here was, what do you suggest for a good contract clause for late product penalty? My manufacturer kept providing excuses, so I had the impression that I was low priority. We try our best to have some sort of week-by-week penalty for being late. Factories typically want to push back on this and not have it be a part of the PO. So we try to put something reasonable in there, like 0.5% per week or something that just gives them the initiative to not be late. We're going to be updating our purchase orders across the board and having like a more official legalese version of our PO. When we have that done ourselves, we'll add it for free to our courses for the importing course specifically, because we have a bunch of other materials and documents that we've been using in there. I think we already have a template in there that you put in there, right, Dave? But we're going to try to get a more robust one in there. But yeah, if you can get this in there, more power to you. And it could be just a situation where eventually you get to the point where you don't work with manufacturers that aren't willing to accept it. So, yeah. Any other thoughts on that, Dave?
Yeah, the other thing you can do, number one, put that in your PO and have them put it in their copy of the PO. Also, add your sales rep to WeChat and basically harass them every week. What's the status of my order? It's the same everywhere. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And don't rely on email. Just get them on WeChat and ask your sales rep every day, hey, how's that order going?
Yep. Okay. Anthony says, I was offered cheaper shipping from my supplier, but I am a little bit wary of using their shipping company. I'm afraid of miscommunications, etc. Do you have agents that coordinate the shipping here in Canada or US in your experience? So I've never had a manufacturer be the one that does the shipping for me. So I don't really have experience with this at all. We use a company called Great World to do all of our shipping. They're someone that we started with very early on in the process. I don't think they're the cheapest people out there, but they're damn reliable. And we just send them an email, like when we're looking to ship something, literally send an email saying, Jamie, meet Sue, whoever our contact is at the factory. We're shipping XYZ, like, let me know when it's here. And that's basically the way that I prefer to run it. And Abby just threw a link in there. We're not affiliated with them in any way. I just think they provide great service. I don't know. Like I don't really have, I can't think of any reason why I would be worried about the manufacturer shipping it. Can you, Dave, or is there something?
Yeah, well, I think I know where he's coming from. He's worried about dealing with a Chinese company a million miles away.
Mm-hmm.
How is he going to communicate with that in Canada? Well, most of these freight forwarders are simply brokerages. So if they're shipping your products to Vancouver, they have an agent in Vancouver that's going to handle all that. You're not dealing with a local agent in China. Eventually, there's somebody local within your kind of region that you'll be in contact with, not somebody in China. That's eventually what happens, is eventually you get put in touch with a local agent, even if it is your supplier organizing the shipping.
Yep. Okay, so that one's good. Joe is asking, any tips for getting the best pricing on air freight? If the shipper books it in Asia, are they getting much better rates than booking it from here? Can North American businesses get a China Post account? If so, will they take 15 kilogram packages? So Joe, if you could throw in the chat, not in the Q&A, but in the chat, just so I can see it if you're still here right now. I'm curious, like, what size air freight shipment you're talking about here. And my first take on this would basically just be like, the best way to get the best pricing on air freight shipping is to do a much better job of planning your shipments and never ship air. Air shipping is so ridiculously expensive. Like, we actually just evaluated it for something else. We went through all of last year without having to do any air shipping. I was so proud of it. And now, like, in the first quarter of 2018, we're having to consider air shipping something because we ran out of it because we didn't plan good enough. And even with something that has, it's our best margin product, like literally it's a product that we had the best margin of anything else in our entire catalog, and we still can't justify air shipping it over here. It was going to be something like $15 per unit versus 2 in a container. If you're talking about a 15 kilogram package, I mean, that's like 35, 40 pounds. That's something that you probably want to air ship anyway because it's so small. I don't know that you would want to throw that in a container. So I'm not really sure where you're coming at from that question. Dave, do you have any other thoughts or insights that I might not be thinking about for what he's maybe asking here?
He might be shipping something so low weight that it is cheaper to ship air freight. I have a couple of friends who ship very, very light items, doing 7 figures in revenue, and they ship everything air freight, just because it is cheaper.
Joe's saying that he has basic cases are 15 kilograms, bringing in 1 to 16 cases at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still probably something that would be better to put in a boat then, because you're talking about 225 kilos. That's definitely enough to put in a cargo shipment. I don't know that makes sense to maybe. Joe, you're still here, obviously, in chat. If you could tell us why you would consider air shipping versus putting it in a container. Like, I don't know. It's going to be cheaper no matter what, I would think, to put it in a container. I can't think of a reason why, besides the time frame, the extra 3 to 4 weeks you're waiting.
I think I think the equation is around 100 kilograms, 200 kilograms. That's where air shipping is cheaper, actually. So
right, but this is more than that. It's a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, he's doing 16 cases.
Air freight rates get better at that size. Yeah.
Not 16 though. You're doing 16 cases. That's what, 2,000 kilograms?
No.
Sorry,
No.
200 kilograms.
Yeah, 225. I mean, it's just basic math, right? I mean, if you can get it, if it is cheaper to air freight it, then why not? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for our business and the type of volume that we're doing, we avoid it at all costs because we're never bringing in. I mean, we're, like I said earlier on, we're doing everything we can to be in that full container range. And it just doesn't make sense, obviously, at that point to be doing air freight.
Yeah, and the comment on China Post. China Post is only cheaper, I think, up to 1 pound items. After that, it's not cheap at all. So even if you get a China Post account, it's not going to save you any money.
Yeah.
I don't think you can, but even if you could.
So Anthony is saying here, full container load versus less than a container load. For me, I import bikes, and shipping has always been cheaper to ship LCL versus FCL, which, by the way, my order is the size of a 20-foot container. I still can't wrap my head around it. This season, I assume that meant shipped. I shipped 5 different freight. Oh, shopped. He didn't mean shopped. This season, I shopped 5 different freight forwarders, and they quoted me FCL as their cheaper option, which was much more expensive than my current freight forwarder as an LCL shipment. Any idea? Like, that makes no sense to me in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to wrap my head around that.
There's
I
not normally
don't know.
there's not normally a huge gap between LCL, like the actual sea freight. Normally, where you get killed, though, is number one, the domestic charges once it actually lands. Like it's cheaper to get a container shipped up than 20 pallets from some random third-party warehouse. So normally, you'll save a lot of money on a full container just on that domestic charges when it does hit America. Number two, LCL, it's just a crapshoot. I was going to say, if it's being combined with other products, you're then kind of at the risk of all those other products screwing your products over in one way or another.
Yeah.
It's all the same products going. I'm baffled. No, I have no idea.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Here's another interesting question from Dean. What are some best practices for avoiding customs exams for sea cargo shipments?
You never get exams, so.
We've been pretty lucky, I got to say, knock on wood.
Have you ever had a customs exam?
We have, yeah. I think just once, actually.
It depends where you're also shipping it to. Canada is really bad for customs exams, and they're getting a lot of flack from it, actually, from the Canadian government. Shipping it to the U.S. seems very rare.
Yeah.
There's certain red flags. It's kind of like an audit for a taxation purpose.
Yeah.
Certain red flags to look for on a shipment, and you could be doing everything totally white hat, but for whatever reason, there's something they don't like. Their region in China, a supplier's name, something that's kind of flagging things.
Yeah, something that might be subject to anti-dumping tax, so you're trying to get around it if you're like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dean's actually asking a follow-up question here. It does sound like I think CBP's Canadian Border Patrol, right? Or is that CBP's Customs Border Patrol? So I guess, have you found that Customs Border Patrol be more likely to sideline new companies' sea shipments for CET exams? I asked because my last 2 shipments have been selected for them for exams. Oh God. Any idea how to reduce? I mean, I don't know. Like Abby's actually was posting this for us. I guess Dean had asked us earlier in conjunction with this question. I don't know. Like I haven't had problems with this. I mean, we've imported millions and millions and millions of dollars of stuff at this point. All I can say is that we do everything by the book. We aren't screwing around with invoices and totals and et cetera. We make sure we're classifying our stuff the exact way that it should be, even if the duty rates are higher and it's brutal. I don't know if that's helped or not. I don't honestly know. This is something that we've been lucky, I guess. Yeah.
I can just make one comment. Where you'll get a customs exam, almost 100% of the time, Murphy's Law is when you need that product for Christmas. December 1st, and you get put in a 3-week customs exam. So
yeah, and the government's nice enough to write you a check for your lost time not being able to sell the product. So,
of course.
All right, let's see the next question here.
And one more, and I'll have to take off here, unfortunately, guys.
Okay. So this was just a quick comment. Stefan says, thank you so much to you both for what you do to the community. It's tremendous. Thank you for saying that. Comments like that actually mean a tremendous amount to us. This is tons of work. Obviously, we're hoping to sell some courses and stuff from this, but it's not anywhere near enough to make up for like the time we put into Ecom Crew overall. I just feel like what goes around comes around in life, and you don't necessarily need something back from someone at the exact moment you're helping them. Sometimes it comes in other ways. So it definitely is appreciated seeing comments like that. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, and I'll kind of leave on that note and echoing what Mike said there too. Ultimately, I mean, we both are passionate about e-commerce, and just for whatever reason, the group of guys that are in e-commerce, guys and gals, seem to be people that I like in general. So yeah, glad that you guys got something out of this.
Yeah. Dave, it was a pleasure as always, my friend. We'll be in touch, I'm sure, over the next couple of days. Have a good train ride wherever you're heading. I'm going to try to get to a couple more of these questions. My battery is right at the bottom here. I forgot to bring a power cable because I have it plugged into my monitor normally, but I went into a different room to do this. So let me get to a couple more questions. Dave, we'll talk later. And
see you guys.
Thanks for coming.
And we'll send out the PowerPoints to everybody that was part of this sometime probably today or at the latest tomorrow.
Yep.
And thanks, David. I'll look up a map of Canada when I get time. See you guys.
All right, cool. So So John's saying, I believe you can get around the GS1 by getting a GTIN exemption. I honestly don't know what a GTIN exemption is. So John, if you have a chance to put that in the chat or something, let people know what that is. Maybe I'll worry about that when we get our barcodes flagged. We haven't had any problems. Let's see. Are you going to get my air freight question above? Yes, I did. Sorry, we ran out of, try to get to the questions here at the end. I apologize, Joe. But if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer those as well. And hopefully the answer was helpful. Randy's saying, what percentage should you hold back? And forgive me, this is speaking about payment, he's saying, Abby or Randy, if you could just throw in chat what that's in relation to. That might have been the order that had that failed inspection maybe or something. I'm sorry, I just don't know what this was in reference to. I'll come back to that in a second. Might have been in reference to payment terms. Yeah, Randy, if you're still on, my friend, just throw that in the chat somewhere. I'll come back to that in just a minute. Hopefully I can answer that for you. I apologize. I just don't have a reference to that. It's hard to keep all these different names and questions in my head in order, so I might have answered some of this partially before and didn't get to it. I apologize. Rob's asking, when you place a new order, do you send a PO that you create, or do you take the PI that the supplier sends and modify it with your order stipulations and have them sign it? So we have a PO that we create, and we have them stamp that with their factory stamp. That makes it official. So any terms that are on there, they have to adhere to. And I believe that template is available as a part of our course. We have a bunch of like documents and vendor lists and stuff like that. That's a part of the course that come with it, and that's in there. Anthony says it was $1,000 difference. Yeah, that's definitely crazy. Joe says couldn't agree more with Stefan, and I believe that was into the thanking us for helping out. Definitely appreciate it again, Joe. Tony said thanks, Dave. Joe says questions answered. Awesome. I love completing the list here. Let's see. Is there any others? I still didn't know what Randy wanted. Let's see. John just threw another one here. Ask Seller Central about it. I'm not 100% sure. It only applies to brand registered brands, but it means you don't need a UPC. Once you get it, you have to reapply every 6 months. Okay, so awesome. Yeah, we are brand registered. I guess this is another reason why you should definitely try to get brand registered for sure. This says Pete raised his hand. I'm not sure what that means. That was something new that popped up. But if you have a question, please throw that in the chat or ask it in the Q&A. I feel like we got to the end of the questions. Let's see here. Why don't I take the rest of the day off now? Yeah, unfortunately, this is the time of the day that we start our second job, which is talking to people in Asia, whether it's our Philippines office or our Chinese manufacturers. This is about when they start coming to the office, and we have a lot of products in development right now. As I said, we're trying to develop 50 new products this year, which is about 1 per week. So we're constantly in communication with China. Vince says, great webinar. And Ecom Crew rocks. Again, love hearing that stuff. It never gets old. Thanks so much for holding up the webinar. Let's see. I think that's all the, wait, a couple more questions here. Got a girl waiting for me to take out here tonight. Great job, Mike. Just want to make sure when you're calculating profit margin ahead of the initial order that I capture all cost per above. Let me find the per above. Can you run through all costs to be captured, i.e. freight, duty, customs, shipping, how to determine duty in any given item? So as a course member, if you do join our course, I'm a bad salesman, so but ecomcrew.com/webdeal, there's a document in there that helps you calculate all this. But to go through the big things, you talked about a lot of them here, but let's start off the top of my head as quick as I can. Sample fees are going to be a part of your cost. Inspections, re-inspections if it fails, the duty, the freight to get it there. Once it hits the port, you're going to have to get it from the port to Amazon or to a 3PL and then to Amazon from there. If you're labeling, you'll need to do it. Storage fees. You'll need to place storage at your 3PL and or at Amazon. You're going to be paying PPC most likely on Amazon. Returns is a big one. People don't think about returns a lot. Your return rate is going to be at least 1%. upwards of 5%, depending on the item that you're doing. Return fees can be pretty expensive. Coupons, launching a new product and offering discounts, running a product at a loss to start with, building your email list, working with influencers. All these different types of marketing activities are an initial cost. Let me try to think of anything else that people often forget. I think that probably covers most of them, at least the things I can think off the top of my head. And again, we have a worksheet, a spreadsheet, Excel sheet for anyone that joins the course that you basically plug in, and it tells you estimated cost, things to be thinking about if there's anything in there that I missed. Mike's a machine. Awesome. Love that. Jay-Z, is it a bad idea to create 2 listings, maybe with 5% variation, so I can get more use, 18 pictures instead of only 9 for one listing? Let's say I have 5 products. If I create 10 listings, I can double the number of pictures. Is that a horrible idea? I plan to have my pictures be my differentiator and strength. Context, I am invested in awesome pictures, probably paying 400 to 800% more than any other competitors have spent. I'm leaning towards doing it, but I don't know if it will affect my ranking and sales velocity when I divide amongst more listings. I think that's a bad idea. To take the exact same product or something that's only 5% different. I think it's better to do just one product and put all your effort into that. I think about what goes into our next course is going to be launching like a #1 product on Amazon course, basically, that we hope to launch in April. And I know like what it goes into launching a successful product on Amazon and having like a new #1 bestseller. Trying to do that with a variation that's basically the same thing. While it might not get you in trouble, it probably in spirit is against the terms of service. Like you're not supposed to really do that. And we try to do like the straight and narrow and not do things that could potentially get us in trouble in any way, shape, or form. The way that you end up getting in trouble is not by Amazon finding you out, but by a competitor turning you in. That's like a really big point here. And if you're doing that and a competitor finds this and they're just nasty and they're trying to get you in trouble, that's one way they could get you. And that would be a really crappy way to get like your account shut down. And, you know, if I was trying to do what you're trying to do here, and we do this ourselves, actually. Gel pens is a perfect example. We have more than one gel pen listing, but they're substantially different. It's not a 5% difference. It's a completely different item that we're using to try to, because like you want to, it's about real estate, right? So, you know, someone searches for garlic press and you only have one result out of 20, you got 5% of the listings. But if you have 2 listings that can rank for that, you have 10%. It's double the chance of getting the sale. But I would do it with a substantially different product. I wouldn't just take the same garlic press and throw it in a different box. I mean, I would make it a completely different color, a different size, or put some type of different functionality on it. You already know how to develop a successful product in that niche, and you can develop something else that is different enough that isn't confusing the buyer and can appeal to one set of people versus another. I think that's a much better way to do it, Jay-Z. All right. I think we got them all. This is the point where I probably missed somebody and they're going to think that it was personal. I promise you it wasn't. This stuff goes by pretty quickly when you're doing these webinars. It's tough to get to every single question. I try to my best to do that. You know, the only thing I'll mention is that if you do join our course, you get access to Dave and I through email. So if you have questions like this that you'd like to get answered, we're there to answer them for you nonstop, unlimited email access to us if you purchase the course. A couple more things just popped in here. Nick was asking, I'm late to the party, would like to know when the replay will be available. It'll be available either later today or tomorrow. Disregard my last question. You guys answered it. You guys rock. By the way, your courses have forum. It's just email support. So you can just email us any questions you have. Eventually, we'll put together a Facebook group. We haven't done that yet. Pete says, do your courses walk us through your offline promotion, Facebook ClickFunnels, and strategies in detail? The next course we're doing is exactly that. So the courses that we have right now so far, we have 2 of them. And it's this, as I mentioned, if you purchase them the next day, it'll be 2 for 1. So you buy one, you'll get the other for free. The 2 courses are building a 7-figure brand, and the other one is importing from China. Those things are 2 very different things. So they're 2 separate courses. And after this webinar, after tomorrow, they're going to be back at full price and be sold separately. A 3rd course that we're going to be releasing is on a completely separate topic of offline promotion, ClickFunnels, and how to be able to build a #1 product on Amazon. So that is our next course that's going to come out. And it'll be priced in the $500 to $800 range. We haven't quite priced it yet, but there's going to be a lot going into that. We're going to be actually including our templates and pages and images and a bunch of really amazing assets along with that course, Pete. So, all right. I think that's everything. My throat's dry, so it's probably about the time to sign off, but I appreciate everybody sticking that's made it. We actually have more than half of the people that started with us still here, which is awesome, guys. Probably half of them like walked away from the computer and they forgot that they were even still talking to us, but judging by the comments coming through, there's still tons of people here. I really appreciate everybody joining us today. #1 goal is to give back to the community. Hopefully you guys found this to be helpful, and we wish you guys the best of luck in your business. Until the next webinar, guys, happy selling, and talk to you then.